As a real estate wholesaler who've tried it all, from PPC to direct mail to texting to cold calling, I will say this: cold calling still works. However, you need to make sure the tool you're using is the best for your business. Today we're gonna do a deep dive into CallTools and to the software that I've used before many times, and we're gonna show how to set it up and how to maximize the use of this software in order to get the most leads. And I'm gonna be sharing some unique features that you haven't heard of before. So without further ado, let's jump right in. All right, so now that we're at the computer, let's go ahead and let's break down what CallTools is all about. So this is how CallTools looks. I just signed up for a blank account, so I'll be able to show you guys how do you do this from the beginning. By the way, when you sign up, they actually have a pretty hefty fee, but if you use the link down in the pinned comments down below, you actually get 80% off. So make sure to use that and get yourself 80% off on the sign up fee. Some of these features are very standard, like setting up a campaign and things like that, uploading a list. I'm not gonna go over into that because you'll be able to figure that out yourself. And if you don't, reach out to the support, they'll be able to help you. What I wanna go into is some unique features to CallTools and some of the setup that actually will help you get most leads. First, let's talk about something called sales funnels. In one of my previous videos, when I talked about CallTools, I have spoke about sales funnels, and sales funnels are so different because I haven't seen any other platform do it exactly the same way as this. What you are able to do, and as you see on my screen, this is like a typical sales funnel. This is like a example sales funnel. What you're able to do is actually you're able to set up how the system dispositions leads based on the dispositions that you and your VAs do. So for example, if you disposition a call back later, for example, it will try at least 1 or up to 15 times. It'll be ready to call back in 4 hours. Let's say you want to call someone, if you call them and it didn't work out, you want to call them in 2 days. You can set up this 2 days, weeks, whatever it is. So if you have a sales funnel, if you have a really well created sales funnel, what this will do, this will always disposition your leads exactly the way that you want them to be dispositioned, because you may not be running just sales from a prop stream list or whatever list. You may be PPC leads, cold texting leads that you need to follow up with, all that kind of stuff, so that you can set up rules for certain call dispositions so that your overall system runs exactly how you want it to be running. The next feature that's super useful is live filters. So here you can actually see they have some example live filters, right? So you can see, okay, so all leads for this live filter, and I'll show you where you install that live filter in the campaign and all that stuff. But you have this live filter, you can filter DNC, all that good stuff. You can also actually, so let's say you tag the lead a certain way, or the last disposition of the lead was this or that. You can say, I want them to be excluded, or I want them to be targeted in this live filter. Let's say you don't want to call in this specific live filter. You don't want anyone that has, let's say you left a voicemail to. All right, so that's that. You don't want to call anyone that is wrong number, right? Obviously, you don't ever want to call wrong number, so that's all something that you always should be doing. You should be including wrong numbers in here. And obviously, this call dispositions, you can actually add it for yourself. That's something that's very specific to you and your business. So as you go through this software and you create more of these call dispositions, you'll be able to adjust this the way you want to. But the way you actually insert this live filter is in a campaign. When you create a campaign, you go down here, and right here you install the live filter. So you can choose whichever live filter you want it to go. And here you'll also be using the sales funnel, right? So you can do different sales funnels because maybe you want certain campaigns run certain differently than others, but this way you'll be using that. Now that we're talking about this, let's talk about something really cool, right? So as you cold calling, or your VA is cold calling, you have to have a script. And old school way to do, like, a print out a piece of paper and have a script, or like have like a Google Doc, or some softwares will allow you to have a script in the system. CallTools not only allows you to have a script in the system, it actually allows you to have a dynamic script in the system. And I'll show you how this works. So you're gonna go to Agent Script, and right here we're gonna look at some like basic examples that I just started creating, but I'll show you guys some of the ones that they provide. So let's say your agent is cold calling, and the first, somebody answers and they say, hello, I'm trying to reach blank, like first name, that will be inserted from the lead information. And it'll say, is this the correct number? If the person says no, they click no on their on their system. They actually are able to click no in their script, and they'll populate the next answer. And it'll say, okay, sorry, have a great day. But if they say yes, it will populate the next one, which is, okay, great, I'm trying to reach to see if you might still own blank address. And then if this is something else, so not only you're able to do like buttons, you can add conditions. So if this has a city, let's say this lead city is St. Petersburg, for example, then the script will go this way. And if it's this lead city is Tampa, it will go a different way. So it's really cool because you can actually really generate one really good script and have this for single family homes, for land, for multifamilies, because instead of city being this and that, you can actually say lead type it equals multifamily or equals land or equals single family homes or whatever other business you're in. But overall, this is really, really cool because if you can generate one really good script, this will make your VA's job and your job a lot easier, and especially as you're training new VAs or having new people in the business, you don't have to really worry about them following the script correctly on a spreadsheet and whatever, all that stuff. This is the best way to do it, and I think this is a really cool feature. I haven't seen anyone else do this. And now that we're done with talking about scripting, let's talk about campaigns a little bit more. If you're looking into different dialers, you will see that a lot of dialers will say they have power dialer, they have a single line dialer, multi-line dialer, and they will say predictive dialer. I have seen predictive dialers in other platforms, and they're well done. However, what I've seen CallTools do is kind of unique with the predictive dialer, and I'm going to show you guys here right now. So when you go to a predictive dialer, you actually scroll down in the campaign setting, right? So you're creating campaign, all that good stuff. You go all the way down here. Here you can actually have this two kind of really cool things that are not usual, that I haven't seen anywhere else. So what a abandonment rate is, let's say you call 10 people, and one of them responded, but your agent was on a phone call with another one, the abandonment rate is 10%. So 10% of the leads that have been that you've called that responded, then also you weren't able to talk to them, so abandonment rate is. What you can do here, you can actually set up an abandonment rate. So you can say, okay, so I want this system to max abandonment rate of 6%. So 6% of the leads max. What this does is that if it's less than 6%, it speeds up the system. But if it gets to 6% or higher, it slows down the system. And when speeding up, slowing down, what I mean is how many more lines are you calling. So it's really cool. And this is how you're gonna set up. So let's say you want 5 lines per agent. When it's 1 agent, when it's 3 agents, you want 7. You can have this like 2, 7. You know, when you have three agents, you can have like 8 lines, all that stuff, and the higher. You can set this up however you want to. So, and this abandonment rate is going to apply to all of this. So, you know, for example, it makes sense to do, let's say you do, 7 lines per VA when they're just starting, but you don't want them to go over 8%. And the moment they go over that 8%, it will drop from 7 to lower until it catches back up, and it'll go back again. So it's kind of stabilizes itself as it goes. Super useful feature. I believe this is really cool, so you should be using that for sure. The next feature that I don't think I've ever seen is called Hot Bucket Lead feature. So you are here in the campaign, right? You go all the way down, you click advanced, and you go down. There's some other features here that are really cool, but Hot Lead Bucket, this bucket I created earlier, I'll show you guys what I created. But what that does is that, so because CallTools is really good with automations and API and all that stuff that I'm actually going to be talking about next, the Hot Lead Bucket is something that you can create. And let's say you are cold calling your regular list leads, but you have a website, and on that website you have a lead form. And let's say somebody just put in an application on your website that they want to sell their property. You don't want to miss that lead, right? That lead is hot lead, right? And you want to make sure you call them right away and get on the phone. So what this does is that as you're dialing CallTools, in order not to miss this, what it does is actually able to, because it's a hot lead bucket, it puts the lead on the top of your priority. So if you're cold calling, the next lead that will be called will be hot bucket lead. So this is really, really cool. I believe that if you have multiple ways of getting leads, this feature will be very, very helpful for you. Now let's talk about my favorite topic is automations. I love automations. I don't know if you guys follow me on Instagram, I actually had a couple things that I work with Make.com, I work with Zapier, and N8N as well. So all of that stuff, I love it. I feel like today's day and age, every platform should be doing automations. But the way these automations work, so let's say you are trying to, let's say you disposition a lead and you want to make sure that that lead gets into someone's email. Let's say your VA dispositions a lead, hot lead, right? You want to make sure you're on top of it. They don't have to just like message you saying, hey, we got a lead. You can actually go ahead and have like email alert for disposition, right? So the moment there's a hot lead, you get an email saying, hey, there is a hot lead. If there's an inbound missed call, for example, these are just examples that CallTools have set up, but you can actually play around with it and do whatever you want. And this, what you can do is that obviously, let's say inbound call, in this situation, the contact will get updated, it will set ready, and it will clear the suppression date. But overall, these are the actions you can take. You can suppress someone, you can priority call back them, you can create an event, you can email them, you can delete them, you can add them to a separate bucket, you can email alert, create a goal, all this good stuff, right? And the cool thing is that they have a webhook option. Webhook opens up the possibility of whatever other thing you want to do, right? If you feel like this is limited, you have Zapier, Make.com on N8N. You can do any of these things and much more, right? Because those automations are super cool, and that's why webhook is so important. So that's why I love these automations. I think they're super cool. I think that automations are necessary in our day and age, but some platforms don't use it. But I know CallTools have been trying to keep up with the progression of things. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in some AI features pretty soon. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please leave a like. Don't forget to comment if you have any questions. And again, don't forget to use the link in the pinned comment down below if you do want to get 80% off your sign up fee if you did choose to sign up for CallTools. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.